The Trump Arlington Cemetery story is starting to spin out of control. There have been a lot of new developments, mostly fueled by lies coming from the Trump campaign. And in a little bit, we're going to talk about the senior Trump advisor, this guy, Chris LaCivita, who is behind it all. And in fact, he has a long history of these types of smear campaigns going after Democrats based on their military service. Exactly what they've been doing to Tim Walz. And there's no doubt that LaCivita is behind this. He was the guy behind the Swift boat attacks on John Kerry that cost him the 2004 election. But it all started with Trump going to the ceremony at Arlington Cemetery, and then he went into Section 60 and filmed that TikTok and took this photo with the goofy thumbs up. They're standing on the graves. I know. Now, in addition to the fact that it is against federal law, it's tacky beyond all measure to be standing on the graves and doing a thumbs up. There are other people's headstones visible in this photo, like in particular, Sergeant Andrew Marchesano.
As you noted, these Gold Star families welcomed him. As you also noted, the rules of the cemetery are that campaign photography, campaign filming is not permitted, photographs that are going to be used for election purposes. And the Marchesano family certainly was not contacted or asked for this, but his gravestone is now in that TikTok video from behind.
Jesus.
That Trump posted on TikTok. He's also, the front of the gravesite with his name is in pictures that were posted.
Oh my God. So Trump goes out and does campaign material that features the gravesite of a Green Beret who did 8 combat tours and committed suicide and is buried in that cemetery. And the Green Beret's family is like, what are you doing, bro? Federal law says you can't film campaign stuff in Section 60. That's a hallowed ground of military, respect and reverence towards the soldiers who died. And Trump is out there, without their approval, pimping their dead son's headstone around as a campaign token. Dude, he is a scuzzy degenerate man.
Online with Trump posing with a thumbs up. And, they were very clear, the family, in a statement to us that they really support this other family and other families that lost people in the Abbey Gate bombing during in Kabul in Afghanistan, but that this is a restricted area and that they would hope that everyone would be respectful of that. It was a restrained statement, but it was very clearly displeased.
Now, after the story erupted, the Army had to put out this statement. An ANC employee who attempted to ensure adherence to these rules was abruptly pushed aside. This incident was unfortunate, and it is also unfortunate that the ANC employee and her professionalism has been unfairly attacked. Now, that, of course, is referring to the Trump campaign. After the incident, they tried to discredit the cemetery employee, saying she was having a mental health breakdown because she didn't want to be assaulted by them. And not only that, but they said they had video corroborating the Trump campaign's version of events, and nobody's seen it. They're lying. We know they are. Everything's gone haywire. But now here's where LaCivita comes into the picture, because Trump is trying to spin this. First off, Trump did this interview where he basically lied about the whole thing, tried to draw attention away from the fact that he broke federal law to make it seem like he was set up. So a bunch of MAGA Gold Star families started recording these videos, and Trump is posting them all over social media. Now, granted, most of the activity on Twitter these days is bots, but they are getting a heavy push from Elon Musk, who, of course, is trying to sink the election for Kamala, get Trump in office so he can avoid paying taxes. But these videos are hideous. All the family members sound like they're reading off cue cards. It's like no emotion.
Kamala, your statement is nothing more than a political spin to help you look better in your presidential campaign against Donald Trump.
My daughter-in-law, Sergeant Nicole Leanne G., was killed in the Afghanistan exit at Abbey Gate.
And they're cutting this into all kinds of video content, hammering away 2 points. One, they're pointing out that they invited Trump to be there, which doesn't really matter because the issue is the Trump campaign breaking the law. Here's the deal. I feel for you if you're grieving the loss of a loved one, but you don't get to break the law just because you're grieving. And it doesn't matter who invited Trump there, and it doesn't matter if those Gold Star families wanted him there. The point is it's against federal law to be making campaign TikToks on these grave sites, and that needs to be respected. But this is definitely the work of LaCivita, because he actually specializes in campaigns about Democrats' military service trying to help Republicans win elections. He did it to John Kerry in 2004. He's an expert at this. And you'll see, along with Trump trying to spin this Arlington situation, they also have coordinated attacks on Tim Walz. They're calling it the stolen valor attacks, where they're trying to misrepresent Tim Walz's run for Congress to make it look like he ducked out of a deployment, which is a lie. They're also now, the latest attack is Tim Walz was talking about going to Afghanistan as a congressperson, and they're trying to make it seem like he misrepresented himself being a soldier in Afghanistan. Another lie. So it is just lie after lie after lie, with Republicans trying to hammer away, creating a false smear campaign against Tim Walz to try and sink Kamala's run for president. Even Tom Cotton was doing the shows this weekend trying to downplay the families who were upset that their kids' headstones were in Trump campaign material. This thing is so toxic. But unfortunately for the Republicans and the Trump campaign, it's not 2004 anymore. So all of this stuff is getting debunked in real time in content on YouTube and TikTok, and we got to keep it up. And of course, we have headlines like this crap from the Washington Post that's trying to sort of glad hand and sane wash the chaos that Trump is trying to sow here. Stay vigilant, people, because we are going to see more and more of this swift boating. That was the term that was coined when they sunk Kerry's campaign in 2004. They put together this group called the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth that actually created a whole bunch of false narratives against John Kerry based around discrediting his military service. A very different world back then. A lot harder to debunk this stuff once it got into the mainstream press. But so far, most of the press has been pretty aware of what LaCivita and Trump are up to, and they've been reporting on it accordingly. We're going to see more of this kind of behavior coming from LaCivita and Trump as they desperately try to find some toehold to turn public opinion against Kamala Harris. And they're aiming for Tim Walz. The guy with bone spurs is trying to tarnish a man with 24 years of service in the National Guard. An impeccable record. They even got Megyn Kelly out here doing these anti-Tim Walz focus groups. And of course, even Fox News got in on the lie. Of course they did. When they tried to make it seem like Biden and Harris were invited to this thing, and they decided not to show. They lied about it on Twitter. They got community noted, and then guess what? Elon removed the community note. These people are low. They're pulling out all the stops. They're really going after this. And that's another thing about these MAGA families that are covering Trump's ass here. They're disrespecting all the families who have lost loved ones in wartime by trying to dismantle the institution that is Section 60 at Arlington Cemetery. I mean, just think about it. The things they're saying in these videos, too, are things like, Kamala Harris, you murdered our kids. Think about that for a sec. Think about the sheer number of American soldiers that have died in wartime, defending their country, giving the ultimate sacrifice. So now, to start this new behavior of having grieving families after the administrations that were in charge of the military is beyond toxic. And especially when they're trying to pin it on the vice president, who had nothing to do with the Afghanistan withdrawal that was renegotiated by Trump after he set free 5,000 Taliban and created a scenario where all the American soldiers in Afghanistan were vulnerable. Trump set that up. He set up a really piss poor situation. But it's beside the point, because at the end of the day, you're not supposed to be politicizing the death of American soldiers. These tragedies happen under every administration, and it's discrediting to every veteran that has lost their life defending this country when you start playing crappy political chess games like this, just trying to get a sexual abusing convicted felon into power, and one who doesn't even like the military. But on a deeper note, this really brings to the forefront a major issue with MAGA, and it's the fact that they don't care if Trump breaks the law. as long as he's doing it in service of them. Even with these Gold Star families that are making these videos for Trump, they're reading this crap off cue cards and they're ignoring the fact that federal law was broken by Trump. And they're trying to cover for him. MAGA's goal is not to obey the law, not to uphold the Constitution. It is only fealty to Donald Trump, and they're willing to do whatever shameful thing they have to do to get him elected. And that's a real problem with Project 2025 looming, because that's exactly what they plan to do with Project 2025. They've said it openly. They want to get Trump elected, start dismantling federal agencies, start breaking the Constitution, and they know they're going to get sued. They know they're going to get challenged, but essentially it doesn't matter if they lose court rulings. Who's going to enforce it? The executive branch is in charge of enforcement. That's what they plan to do. And this is just yet another example of the lawlessness that Donald Trump is willing to engage in. He does not care about veterans. He does not care about whether or not he follows the law.